All right. Hello. Happy Thursday, the 18th of March. I am just going to find myself over on my computer so I can see you guys. And going to mute that. All right. I think we're going, so I'll just give you a few minutes here to find me, hopefully. So, like I said, it's the 18th of March, and I've been listening to news pieces and watching articles, and I guess reading articles would be more the thing. Hi, Mom. That, just talking about a year of pandemic life, and if you are not in Utah, you may not realize, but I believe it's today is the 1-year anniversary of the big earthquake that we had here in Salt Lake City. So, we're all already stressed about the pandemic and then the big earthquake. And I'll tell you, even now, I think it's planes that go over our house. But I just feel like, sometimes I'll hear this rumble and get really, really nervous that we're having another earthquake. So apparently that fear just doesn't go away. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to show you just a couple of things first. So we had a sale yesterday that included free shipping, which Stampin' Up! Almost never does. But I wanted to just sweeten the pot just a little bit and provide a PDF to customers who wanted to shop. And I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and share the PDF for anybody this month that orders on this host code. And that host code is linked in the description of this video. But I wanted to show you the cards that I made. And I also did this with the stencils that are in the paper pumpkin in mind. Just because stencils aren't really something that I think to pull out very often, but they make a huge impact. So that's the first one. I think I've shown you that one before. This one I actually used with Versamark and heat embossing, and I thought it just turned out really, really fun. And then this one I just kind of did a fade away from the center and the cherry blossoms. And then this one is dragonflies and kind of a sky theme with the polka dots. So anyway, if you would like to learn how to make those cards, and just put in an order with me and use that host code, and I will send that PDF over to you. So yes, hi Aunt Pat. This the earthquake last year was about 7 miles from our house, but it was, it wasn't a huge deal. We didn't have any structural damage to the house, but right at the epicenter, it definitely had. There was some serious damage, and it was pretty scary. And then we had aftershocks for a couple months after, so it took a while to get past. So this is what we are going to make today. And normally I wouldn't show you guys things that you can't get right this minute, but I wanted to use the Ride the Range bundle to make a card for someone special. And so now is the time, and I just loved how it turned out, so I'm going to show you how I did it. So that's where we will start. Let me just pull out all of my pieces here. So I'm just going to start with a 4 by 5 1/4 of basic white cardstock. And actually I'm using Whisper White because I somehow had a huge stash of it. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the top of the panel with my Misty Moonlight ink here. And I'm doing it today with the blender brushes again. But you could also use sponges. You're just going to get a slightly different look. It won't be as smooth in texture. And with the PDF that I'm offering right now, I also used blender brushes for 3 of them, I think, but sponging again would achieve the same thing. So, or similar. So you always want to start by just kind of getting the first bit of ink off of your brush. And I'm just going to do this with the top kind of quarter of my panel here. This is not an exact science by any means, so all right, so I feel like that's pretty good on the blue, and I just don't deal well with open ink pads, so I'm going to close them as I go. And then this next one is my terracotta tile. So again, ink up my brush and then just get rid of a little bit of the ink here. Go across here. So the inspiration for this card, I kind of had something like it in mind. And then my mom sent me a picture that she had taken, I think 10 years ago in Fredericksburg, Texas, which is where our family's from. And it used a windmill, or there was a windmill in the frame, and it just was gorgeous. So that's kind of where this is coming from. I think I'm going to try to smooth that edge out just a little bit there. And hopefully this doesn't shake the camera too much. All right, so the next color that I'm going to use is my Mango Melody. And I really am liking this color. It's not really yellow, but it's definitely not orange, which I struggle with orange for anybody who knows me. So it's just a really nice, warm, happy color. And it looks darker on the ink pad than what you get when you're doing this technique. When you do direct stamping, it does look darker than this, but of course you can always add more ink as you're sponging. So I just love how it kind of blends into the other colors. So I think I'm going to stop there as far as my sky. I may actually go back and get a little more of the terracotta tile there. So theoretically this is a sunrise, but I'm not actually that good at saying, you know, the difference between a sunrise and a sunset. So whatever you want it to be will work. All right, now the last one that I'm going to do is my Memento Black, and I'm just going to do that across the bottom. You know, you just don't really see true colors when it's kind of that dusk or dawn time, so I thought black would work for the ground and for the windmill, the focal point as well. So we'll just blend this. And it sounds scary to put all this black on here, but it really, you know, it comes on pretty light, so it's pretty good. So yeah, the modern windmills really don't look like anything special. They look like the airplane spinny things that now I can't think of what they're called. But anyway, okay, so we are done with the brushing part. And you would laugh, when I was making this original card, I put all of the you know, kind of 3D bits on there and then decided to do some stamping, which is not a technique I would recommend, but fortunately it worked out okay. So I think I already mentioned, but this is the Ride the Range bundle. So this stamp set has really neat sentiments and the hay bales and the cowboy and cows. I was thinking that the horseshoe might have been something fun to do for a luck theme, but I couldn't really figure out how to tie that into St. Patrick's Day. It was just a little bit different kind of luck, I guess. So anyway, I didn't get to do anything there. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp these hay bales. Just kind of off to the side here. And then the take time for the simple things is just a really nice, happy sentiment. I think we get so caught up in our phones. I know I'm really bad about that, and that's definitely not a simple thing when you're looking at international news and all the other things that go on around us. So today we actually took some time out. I had my 2 nephews for a couple hours this afternoon too, and so the 4 kids and I went outside and kicked the soccer ball around, and it was really nice weather today, so that was great. Sunny and warm. I think they're predicting that we're gonna have another little cold front this weekend, so I guess Joe will be happy. More skiing, but I could do without it. So I'm just gonna center this sentiment kind of at the top middle of the panel here, and we got it on there straight, so that's good. All right, so I'm done there. Now the next thing that I want to do, I'm just going to take this chalk marker here, and there is truly no technique to this. I just made some little stars kind of here and there. Just drawing, like, it almost looks like a little T or plus sign. You know, kind of till I felt like it was a nice starry sky. So we'll call that good. And then I'm going to mount this panel on a piece of Misty Moonlight that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And it'll just give a teeny tiny little bit of a matte to it. And you may notice that I've got the center of that Misty Moonlight cut out. I didn't have a plan for that piece, but I figure I'll come up with something for it at some point. So I just cut it out and saved it. That makes the card lighter and saves you on the cost of cardstock a little bit. I mean, it's, you know, pennies, but still just feel like it's a good way to keep the card light, if nothing else. All right, so that's matted there. And then I'll go ahead and stick that on a basic black card base. And that crease doesn't seem quite as nice as I would like, so I'm just going to take the bone folder and crease it down a little bit more. So I usually use more direct adhesive than like dimensionals, just because I'm never 100% sure what the post office is going to have to say about something that has, you know, a couple layers of dimensionals. When I've gone in before and asked, it's so subjective. I mean, they just kind of like squeeze it and, oh yeah, I think this one fits through the machine and this one doesn't. So I don't know, I don't really trust them. I don't think that anybody has ever had to pay postage on a card I've sent them, but I don't know if they would tell me. So anyway, all right, so I am just popping out the extra little bits from the die cutting here. This die set's really neat too. I'll show you in a minute, but it cuts out the cowboy and the cows and the hay bales and the horseshoe, but then it's got this windmill, and it also has kind of an archway like you would see at the entrance to a ranch. So I have some ideas for how to use that too. So hopefully in the near future I'll get to show you those. All right, so this being a little bit delicate, I just look for the wider bits and put a thin layer of glue on there. You can do the fine tip glue, but I always have trouble with mine clogging, and that makes me cross, so I just don't like spending a bunch of time fiddling with tools that are supposed to work, so that's not one of my favorites. And then you can do the adhesive sheets to the back of your cardstock when you're die cutting as well. But that usually requires more planning than I put into things. So I do pretty well with the liquid glue. And so we'll just go with that. Okay, so I'm going to set this just about like that. Okay, and then it has this awesome fence, so I wanted to really make sure to use that, and I couldn't decide, you know, not being an artist, knowing what the placement on this ought to be was a little bit challenging, but you know, the foreground concept. So we're just gonna stick it on there and call it good, because honestly, nobody but me is gonna look this hard at things. So with the fence, what I wanted to do is take the little glue dots and just roll them up a little bit, because that'll give it a little more dimension, but not to the degree of an actual dimensional. So it also allows it, let's make sure you can see what I'm doing. It hides the glue dot behind the fence posts that way too. So, all right. So I heard the kids upstairs screaming a little bit ago, and now it's quiet. So hopefully that means there will be peace in the house tonight. Do one more, and then we'll stick this down. So I think just about like that will do. And then I'm just going to take my paper snips over here and get the edge right there. Clean up all these little crumbs. Okay, so I feel like that's looking pretty good. The only other thing I want to do is just spritz a little bit of sparkle, because what is a card without something sparkly? So I'm going to take my super fancy Spritz Studio here, which is just a box. I have spritzed cards unintentionally when I was doing the actual project, so I started just doing everything here. So I'm going to use Wink of Stella for this and just squeeze a little bit down into the brush, and of course I got it on the card, but that's okay. All right, and then just flick it across like that and really make that night sky stand out. Okay, and so hopefully you can see. And the Wink of Stella is alcohol based, so it dries really quickly. While that's drying, I do want to do the inside of the card, if I can find all my pieces. All right, so here is another piece of just the Whisper White or Basic White, whatever you're using. And get my block here. So while I'm switching stamps, I did just want to mention that our retiring list comes out next Wednesday, the 24th of March. And once that comes out, anything that's retiring becomes while supplies last. So there are a few things that you know for sure are going to retire, which that includes the in colors. So the Pretty Peacock and Purple Posy and Rococo Rose, and then the terracotta tile that I used for the ink on this card tonight, and then the Seaside Spray. So these are absolutely gorgeous colors, and if you want anything in them, so whether it's cardstock or the ink or the blends, all of those things are going to be retiring. So get them now before they're out of stock. We are kind of having stock issues with things still just because of COVID. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, I think, for Stampin' Up! To maintain inventory levels on a lot of things. So anyway, Also all of our printed paper and a lot of the ribbons and the embellishments, but we don't ever know more details on those and the stamp sets and dies and punches until that list is actually out. All right, so this is just a barbed wire stamp, and I'm just going to run it across the bottom of the card. And this is not going to line up perfectly, and I'm okay with that too. So pretty good, not perfect. And then I just want to use the happy birthday that's in this stamp set. The font is a little bit rustic and just really nice to go with all the other components of the stamp set. So get this on here straight. My downline Jane came over this afternoon to get me to help her learn how to use some dies of hers, and so she had gotten the envelope dies that were in the holiday mini catalog last fall, and I had never actually used them, but it looks so classy to have your envelopes lined. So that was a fun little interlude this afternoon while Emily was pretending to nap. So that girl, she just doesn't seem to think that sleep is something for her. So we'll stamp that right there. It's a little crooked, but I don't think anybody's gonna really notice that either. All right, so I used to be such a perfectionist, and I just really, I don't know if it's because I'm so tired all the time or because I've realized it really doesn't matter, but it's just not mattering right now. So we're gonna roll with what we get. So once I get this stuck inside the card, I'm glad you think it's straight. Maybe it's just that I'm at a weird angle with the camera mount and the light and everything, but anyway. So get this centered up on the inside of the card, and there it is. So I think we got pretty close to exactly the same on the two. Moved my windmill a little bit. I was just going to show you the rest of the dies. I think, let's see. So this is that big archway that I mentioned, and then, you know, you just have the fence come off the sides of that. And I think these must be little clouds, which those are awfully tiny little clouds, kind of fiddly for my taste, but then all of these just do the outline of the stamps. So really nice set. I think it's great for masculine cards, but also just anybody that's not total city. So my in-laws would probably really appreciate it too. My husband's mother's father was a cattle rancher, so out in southwestern Utah desert. So all right, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you tonight. Are there techniques that you would like to see? If there's ever anything that you have wondered about or wanted to play with without buying, or, you know, that kind of thing, definitely let me know. The butterfly bijou and natural specialty papers are only through May 3rd, and we already had to go on back order on the butterfly bijou paper once. And if you didn't see the cards that I've made with that over the last couple of weeks, this is the paper, and it's just beautiful watercolor and butterflies, and so I think that is definitely one that can be used in a lot of different ways. The April paper pumpkin that you can sign up for right now the theme is so cool, and it's popsicles. So they designed it with kids in mind, which is kind of the first time they've done that. And it's also designed to thank you for the hill country opinion. I'm very glad to have those. So it's designed to cross generations. So like you could do it with your grandkids or, you know, your children, whoever you wanted to craft with. You'll make 12 cards. They're just fun popsicle kind of shapes. Really rich, beautiful colors for more of a summer feel to it, which honestly, April feels a little early for summer, but maybe that's just because I'm still seeing snow on the mountains. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to tell you. So I really appreciate you being here. And if you're catching me on the replay, I appreciate that as well. Sharing my videos helps me get more viewers and bring more videos to you. So I definitely appreciate that. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday night, and I will see you soon. Good night, guys.